Questions or comments? I see a woman back there. Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, yes. We got a microphone? Wait, you got a mic there.
Senator, I had a question on your proposal for Medicare and for Social Security. Might either of those programs require means testing?
Not in my view. I mean, I understand the question, and I'll tell you what, the strength of those, we can say, okay, in Social Security, you know, if you're above $100,000 a year, we're gonna cut your benefits and all that, Medicare the same. Once you begin down that path, today it could be 100,000, 2 years later it's 80,000, it's 60,000, and then it becomes a welfare program for the poor. I believe that healthcare and Social Security must be universal programs, that every single person gets the benefits that they deserve. Now, the other side of the equation is we are going to demand that the wealthy and large profitable corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. All right? So you may say, well, why does Warren Buffett need Social Security? He's doing well with his tens of billions of dollars. And my answer is Warren will get his Social Security, but he's going to pay a hell of a lot of taxes based on his income and his wealth. Okay, ma'am, right here, orange shirt. Yeah.
Yes, Senator Sanders, what is your feeling on the fact that there are 25, I believe, people now, Democrats, say they're running for president? Comment on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's, you know, last time I was here, it was a little bit simpler. There were two people. Secretary Clinton and myself. And, you know, we started out in that campaign way behind. We ended up losing by 5 points. I had hoped we could win, but we didn't. And by the way, this time we hope and expect to win. But, look, I don't know all of them, but many of them are senators who I see every day. And they're good people. I know them all. And my hope is that this campaign will be run on an issue-oriented basis where we'll have serious discussions about the issues facing this country. And my hope and expectation, it will not be some campaign where people are trying to salvage and destroy the character of other people. I think the American people are sick and tired of that. And you're not going to hear me disparage, you know, people who are friends of mine who may disagree with me on issues. But I think, you know, it is an opportunity for the American people to hear folks from different perspectives and to analyze it. So I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. But obviously, it's a very different dynamic. No candidate, I suspect, is going to get, you know, 50. I think Secretary Clinton got 53% of the vote, whatever it is, and that's probably not going to happen. You know, everybody will have lower votes. Yes, ma'am. Here's a mic.
First of all, I support you because of your stand on health insurance. Presently, I pay $1,306 a month for my health insurance. In the town, I was a high school teacher for almost 40 years, and we didn't pay into Social Security. So I pay $1,306 a month, and the town where I worked in Massachusetts has to pay $1,306. So, sir, for me to live here, my health insurance company gets $2,612 a month for my health insurance. And I'm
Let me just interrupt you. $2,600 a month. So
Yes,
we're
sir. Yes, sir.
that's $30,000 a year for health insurance. Does anybody think that that is vaguely sane? And this is what's going on all over the country, you know. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you are today a family of 4, independently employed, you know how much you're paying for health insurance? Paying $28,000 a year for healthcare costs. And this is unsustainable. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, sir. And I'm willing to pay more, certainly not more than that, but I'm willing to pay because I didn't pay into Medicare, but I think $1,306, sir, is a little exorbitant. Secondly, I really support your education plan as I taught high school history for 40 years. But sir, the only thing I would suggest is have chess. In other words, not everybody, you know, is going to be A+ in college. So perhaps if you had tests, as they do in some European countries, where I taught for a time, everybody takes a test, and if you pass the test, you can go on as far in school as you can free. And along the way, they have, as you suggested, sir, technical schools, so that people, there's no disgrace, certainly, sir, in being a plumber or electrician. And then one final thing. I'll shut up.
Well, let me just say this. The point that I do agree with you on is not everybody has the ability, or the academic, ability or the desire to go on to college. But God knows that in this country we need plumbers, and we need sheet metal workers, and we need carpenters, all of which can make a good living. And we have to make sure that those young people get that training as well. All right, let me ask another question. Let's get to somebody else.
I just have one final thing, sir. Please stress, because I'm doing this for another gentleman, please stress that socialism is not communism. That's very, very important that you stress that.
Thank you. Thank you. I will. Okay, I see a hand way in the back. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Stand up, Mike is coming.
Welcome, Bernie. Glad to have you here. My question, and it's not to be negative at all. We've had other candidates here, and one thing people have been asking, and I want to ask you, is if you don't get the nomination, will you support whatever Democrat gets the nomination?
Well, the answer is absolutely and positively yes. I've been very public about that. I want to make one thing very clear, because sometimes, you see on... Oh, really? I didn't know that. I thought I ran all over the country into Nevada, and everybody else working as hard as I humanly could to see that Hillary Clinton was elected President of the United States. And one of the things I take a little bit of umbrage at, okay, is just that, all right? Hillary Clinton and I ran in a tough campaign. She won, I lost. After she lost, I endorsed her, and let me just tell you this, I ran, I think it was, I won't swear to you, but I think it was 13, 14 states. I did event after event after event in the states that the Clinton campaign asked me to go to. And I think if you ask Hillary Clinton, she will tell you that I worked probably harder than anyone else to try to do everything I could to win that election, because I knew how bad Trump would be. So that's what I did. I am looking forward to winning this election. If I win, I look forward to my 22 colleagues supporting me. If I don't win, I will support the winner. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of issues that separate and divide or that need attention, common sense gun legislation
Yep.
needs attention.
Yes.
We need safety for all as much as we need Medicare for all. You have a platform that does address some of the issues. Would you add to that platform support for safe storage or responsible storage for firearms, and also for extreme risk orders? In other words, risk, like red flag laws. That's not on your platform. That's the protection when somebody is in a crisis and removing access to guns from that person.
Something we will say. The first one, yes, and the second one we'll certainly take a look at. Look, I'll tell you a story, which will not shock you. All over the country, I go all over the country and I talk to younger people. There was a kid I talked to, I can't remember where he was, in South Carolina, I think. Big kid, like 6'2" or something. And he said, I gotta tell you, I and many of my friends are scared to go to school. And I hadn't realized, when we grew up, school was a safe harbor, wasn't it? It's a place you socialize, you learn, But that all over this country, think how horrible it is. The kids are now scared, and every day in some state, in some city, there's a drill, right? And, this is awful. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you that I or anybody else that I know of has a magical solution. We got hundreds of millions of guns in this country today, including a lot of assault weapons, and you have a number of emotionally disturbed people. All right? That's not a good combination. So I think we got to do a couple of things. I think we have to be as aggressive as we can to make sure that guns do not fall into the hands of people who should not have that. And that means a significant extension of background checks. It means we have to do away with the gun show loophole, which you are familiar with. It means to say we have to do away with the existing provision where you could walk into a gun show today and do the background check. You can buy 10 guns and you can sell it out to some gang member out there. We got to do away with that. And I'll tell you something else, not widely known. Way back when, 1988, I ran for the United States Congress in a three-way race in Vermont, ran for Congress. I was the only candidate at that point, a few years ago, to say that assault weapons are military weapons and should not be in the hands of civilians in this country. That was back in '88. I lost that election in a state which had no gun control at all. All right? I don't have to tell anybody in Las Vegas, God knows, you have suffered the worst mass killing in this country's history, I believe. So I don't have to tell you what a military-style assault weapon can do. So no magical answers, but we have to do everything that we can to address that and to make sure that the day comes sooner than later when children go to school and don't have to worry about being shot. Okay. Yes, sir, right there.
Love your domestic policy, very humane, very progressive. Can you talk a little bit about international policy?
Yes.
No, how to deal with death spots, and also you have a solution to
Sir,
the
can you
crisis.
wait for the microphone? We can't hear
The question is, can I talk about foreign affairs and do I have a solution to the Middle East crisis? God, if I had a solution to the Middle East crisis, I'd be the smartest guy in the world, and I don't. All right. Well, thank you for asking that. All right, so let's talk about foreign affairs, military affairs. I don't know, lately, I have been attacked by a number of media sources for my views on foreign affairs and military affairs. So let me be very honest with you. When I was a young man, long before I ever dreamed that I would be elected anything, okay, I, along with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and millions of others, marched and opposed the war in Vietnam. All right, and for those of you who are of my generation, you know what that war did to our generation. It virtually destroyed our generation. 59,000 brave young men were killed in that war. Many came home addicted to drugs. You have Vietnam vets sleeping out on the streets in America today. Many who came home took their own lives. So I'm not going to apologize to anybody for having opposed that war. When I was in the House of Representatives and the issue of invading Iraq came up during the Bush administration, go to YouTube and hear what I said. And what I said, in essence, I do not believe Dick Cheney or John Bolton or the Bush administration when they told us that Saddam Hussein, a terrible dictator, had weapons of mass destruction. And I did everything that I could. I really did. Tried as hard as I could to prevent the United States from getting involved in that war. And all of you know the horrific impact of that war. So I don't make any apologies for that. A couple of months ago, I worked with conservative Republicans in order to get the United States out of the unauthorized, unconstitutional, and horrific war in Yemen. You know what's going on in Yemen? Yemen is a poor country, but as a result of the Saudi-led intervention in the civil war there, the United Nations estimates that some 200,000 men, women, and children, civilians, will be dead by the end of the year, and tens of thousands of children have already starved to death. And there is a real danger that that will turn into a mass famine. Worst humanitarian crisis in the United States caused by the dictator of Saudi Arabia, who got intervened. We should not be in that war, and we do everything I can to get us out of that war. And lastly, some of you have been reading that this guy, John Bolton. Everybody know who John Bolton is? All right. John Bolton was one of the leading architects of the war in Iraq in the Bush administration. And he is one of the few remaining human beings on earth who actually believes that that war made sense. And now he thinks, based on how wonderful the war in Iraq was, that maybe we should go to war with Iran. I think that is about the dumbest idea that I've ever heard in my life. All right? And I will do everything I can as the United States Senator to prevent that. If we go to war in Iran, I think you're looking at an Orwellian nightmare of perpetual, never-ending warfare. All right, last point that I want to make is we have a president who, I mean, it's hard to believe, given our history, our belief in democracy and justice. We have a president who continually has conflicts with our allies around the world, whether it's Canada, Germany, UK, and yet cozies on up to the worst dictators in the world. All right? I want to do everything we can to prevent a war with North Korea, absolutely. And I don't fault Trump, by the way, for sitting down with Kim Jong-un. But you don't praise somebody who's running one of the worst dictatorships in the world. You can negotiate, don't praise. You don't praise Vladimir Putin. You don't bring the guy from Hungary here who is an anti-Semite. All right? So what we have got to do is have a foreign policy which stresses democracy and human rights, which says that we have to do everything we can to bring countries together, strengthen the UN, and do everything we can to prevent war and solve international conflict through diplomacy. Last point I'd make on that. Now this may be wishful thinking, but this is what I would do as president. Right now, in the United States and around the world combined, the world is spending about $1.5 trillion on weapons of destruction, right? Tanks and guns and planes to kill each other. Meanwhile, you got climate change out there, which is one of the great threats that this planet has ever faced. My hope is, as president, that I would lead this world to maybe instead of putting money into weapons of destruction, let us come together to fight climate change rather than kill each other. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Wait for a mic. I think there's a mic on.
How do you feel about starting impeachment proceedings based on yesterday's testimony? As a Democrat, it's very frustrating to think we're just got to wait until you or one of your colleagues wins in 2020.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. All right. Here is Nancy Pelosi does not have an easy job. Okay, and that is one of the reasons she does not. Here are the dynamics there. I believe you got two conflicting tendencies there, and I think they can be resolved. Number one, this president is not above the law. No president is above the law. This president must be held accountable. And I believe that the Judiciary Committee should begin impeachment inquiries. Inquiries, all right? Yeah. That's not impeachment. That is to determine, it's the first step, to determine whether or not Trump has committed impeachable offenses. Now, you may not like Trump. I don't like Trump. That's not an impeachable offense. You got to do that. Okay. And so I support the beginning of those inquiries. But here is the danger, which I think Nancy Pelosi and many people are struggling with. It may well be that Donald Trump wants to be impeached because he knows that in the Senate, you know what you need? 2/3 of the United States Senate. You all know that. It's 67 votes to impeach Trump. And right now there are 47 Democrats, and not all of them today would impeach Trump. So to go through the scenario where you go through month after month of impeachment debate, let's just say, and I'm not sure that how it would turn out, if a majority would, but let's assume they do, comes to the Senate. And go through another period of time, and the Senate does not impeach Trump, which is likely. And the American people in the middle of all of that are saying, hey, I can't afford health care. My kid can't afford to go to college. What are you doing to the veterans, for the veterans of this country? What are you doing about climate change? Why aren't you raising the minimum wage? Why are you just worried about Trump all of the time? You understand my point? All right, so that is the dilemma. We cannot allow Trump or any other American president to be above the law, and we've got to pursue that. But if the challenge will be to walk down two paths simultaneously, not so easy, okay? We cannot make ordinary Americans think that we have forgotten working longer hours for lower wages, that they can't afford health care, that their kids can't go to college, that climate change is not a huge issue. You follow what I'm saying? So that is the difficult challenge that we face, not to fall to do something that Trump, in fact, may end up wanting us to do. Yes, ma'am. There's a mic right behind you. You're right.
Thank you. Anna, thank you for your patriotism, too. You've been around a long time and worked hard for American people. Let's continue to address the elephant in the room. You have a lot of wonderful young people working in your campaign. You did last time. I'm sure there'll be way more this time. What I want to know is, how are we going to get all this wonderful legislation passed that probably everyone in the world wants to see us pass? Is there a strategy for overcoming, I hope you're here, for overcoming,
Hold the mic a little further away from you.
for overcoming the media circus that we are going to see again? I'm sure, I hope, your contingency has a strategy for addressing that, because all of the wonderful, you're a serious candidate and he's a buffoon. So, he is going to do as he has always done and overwhelm everyone with things that actually everybody wants to hear what he has to say, because they just do, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. What are you going to do? What's your strategy? What will you,
Good.
please,
Hey,
please.
thank you for that excellent question. It's a very good question. Look, let's not kid ourselves. How do I say this with 5 television cameras looking at me? You know, Trump may be crazy, but he is not a fool, is what you're saying. All right? He was a very successful reality TV guy, and he knows how to make it. That's true. That's true. And there is a reason why he spends half his day watching television. You would think the president had 1 or 2 other things to do, but that's what he does. You're absolutely right. This is what he pays attention to. And every tweet that he sends, I don't know, was some outrageous tweet today. I don't know. I can't keep up with him. Okay, and that's what media focuses on. And that is a very legitimate and real question. And I'll tell you what I think. First of all, let me tell you that one of the reasons, this is very early in the campaign, but every serious poll that has been out there has me defeating Trump, in some cases by pretty good numbers. All right, so we should not be pessimistic about whether he'll be a tough candidate. All right, but I think he can be beaten. We did some polling a month or so ago in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, states he won. We were pretty far ahead of him in those states. I think we beat him for 2 reasons. Number one, we are in the process of putting together the strongest grassroots campaign that I think anyone has ever seen. We have over, as I mentioned earlier, 1 million volunteers right now. They're going to be knocking on doors all over this country. Number two, young people are the most progressive generation in the history of this country, and we should be very proud of those young people. All right? And every 3 young people that we register, 2 of them are going to vote in a progressive direction. All right? That means, and we're making progress. We are making progress. Historically, young people have voted in very low numbers. 2018, they went up. We got to make sure that they go up even higher, and we're going to do everything we can. These are young people who are anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobia, very concerned about climate change and education, everything else. We're going to work hard on that. The third thing, is that we are going to go all over the country, and I was in the Midwest already, exposing Trump for the liar that he was. Look, if you were a worker in Michigan, and your job was shipped to China or someplace, you wanted to hear what Trump had to say. If you couldn't afford health care, you couldn't afford to send your kids to college, what he said made sense. Problem is, he lied. And we will expose him for the liar that he is. So add all of that together. And we also, by the way, have our own social media, which I urge all of you to pay attention to. We're not just dependent on the national media. So you raise the right issue, and we're very conscious of that. And we're doing everything we can to run a strong grassroots campaign which will defeat him. Yes, ma'am.
So first of all, I apologize if I insulted you before, and I want to thank you for coming to Kansas City. We all vote every really important.
Oh, okay. I didn't take it as an insult. Okay.
Anyway, you just started to talk about the Middle East and didn't mention Israel. And that's very important to me,
Yes.
along with the anti-Semitism in this country, which I know has been going on way before Trump, but it's rampant even in our own Congress. So I'd love to hear about.
It's not rampant in their own Congress. I don't accept
Well,
it.
it's rampant in the world, and
It is rampant, and it's growing, and-
in our Congress. So I would like to hear what
Yes.
you have to say about that.
Well, as somebody who's Jewish, obviously it is an issue of concern to me. All right? But it is not just anti-Semitism, it is racism, it is sexism, it is a lot of ugly stuff. What Trump has done in an incredibly bad way, he has kind of lifted the veil. For years, it wasn't cool to be a racist or an overt racist or a sexist or a homophobe. But he has kind of lifted that veil. So it's okay. You want to march in Charlottesville as a neo-Nazi? You're a pretty good guy. It's okay. We like people on both sides. And when you do that, you unleash the kind of the lowest, the worst instincts of people. Middle East is a very difficult issue. All right, but let me just say this, and you may disagree with me again, but you may. And then this is what I believe. I believe it is a very, needless to say, a very volatile area. I think the United States, for the sake of Israel, and I 100% support and defend Israel's right to exist in peace and security. But if that is going to happen, you need a even-handed policy toward the Middle East. It cannot just be pro-Israel. You got to recognize the reality of what life is in Gaza. You know what life is like in Gaza now? You got youth unemployment of 60 or 70%. People can't leave the area. Do you think that that is going to lead to sustained peace? I don't think so. It's not. We are the wealthiest country. And I know that is, I get criticized for saying that a lot. All that I'm saying is I'm pro-Israel, but I'm pro-Palestinian as well. Bring people together. We use the power of the United States and the resources of the United States to bring people together, what is a very difficult issue. Clinton tried to do something, Jimmy Carter tried to do something. This is tough stuff, and the leadership on both parts, whether it's Netanyahu or the Palestinian leadership, leaves much, much, much to be desired. Very difficult, so no easy solutions. Okay, maybe one last question. Gentleman right here. You got a mic on.
Why can't we do as they do in Japan and in Europe and reprocess and recycle nuclear waste on the site? We don't want weapons-grade plutonium shipped to the test site on public highways and nuclear waste going through the highways in secret without any coordination with local first responders. If there's an accident, there's no antidote on the truck. The truckers are certified by DOT to do all sorts of things, but not to give first aid. The casks themselves, the plutonium casks, are only certified to withstand a 30-foot drop. And when you're assessing risks, you have to consider the worst case scenario,
Sure.
not hypothetical or typical accidents.
Okay, let me just say, I agree with you. B, my old friend Harry Reid made it very clear to me that he thought, and I agree, that Yucca Mountain is not a safe repository for high-level nuclear waste. I agree with that. I do not believe that, people disagree with me, maybe here. I believe that the future of energy in this country is a massive investment in wind and solar. And by the way, this state should be leading the country in solar. And we're not. That speaks to the power of the industry. But I agree with you, all right? And we're going to have to figure out, it is a tough issue. We got in my state, you got nuclear waste sitting right by the Connecticut River. Not a smart place for that waste to be. So you're right. No Yucca Mountain. Let's figure out a safe way that we can deal with this very dangerous material that lasts for zillions of years. Okay, I got to get going. But let me thank all of you for being here and just tell you what you already know. This is an unprecedented moment in American history. We have got to act in an unprecedented way. On issue after issue, the American people support us. And if we can prevent Trump and his allies from dividing us up, if we can stand together and support the winner of the Democratic primary, which I am pledged to do, I hope it's me, but if it's not, I will do that. And let's go forward together, not only to defeat Trump, that's terribly important, but to create the kind of nation that we as the wealthiest nation on earth should be able to have. People should not have to pay $1,300 a month for health care. Kids should not be able to go to college. We should be aggressively addressing climate change. So we got a lot of work in front of us. Let's go forward together. Thank you very much.